Hello and welcome to the Daily Neloo. Today I'm here with artist Zsofia Mezei, visiting from France.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is your first time in LA.
Absolutely, first time in California and in Los Angeles. Really excited.
So today I want to talk to you guys about your journey on turning your biggest pain into your gift for this world.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little about that?
How I went from like cutting myself to using it as an artistic expression. I was going to design school, and that's when I came across calligraphy and hand lettering. And at one point when I was practicing with the quill, I found myself like really listening to the sounds that the quill was making on the paper, and it got me back into that state of just like complete peace. And that reminded me of when I was cutting myself, and even though it was quite a violent act, it was still something that brought me a big sense of peace. And there was such a huge time gap between those two moments, and I was listening to that quill and I saw the paper, and it suddenly struck me that okay, like now the quill is the blade and the paper is my skin.
Talk me through like kind of each phase, like the cutting phase, the tattooing phase, and then eventually the calligraphy.
Basically, for me, I started cutting myself probably, I was quite young. I remember vividly, it was never about punishing myself. It was about exploring myself. It was about understanding, like, is there really something beneath all of this? Like, who am I? What am I? What am I made of, you know? There's also an element of control. So by provoking pain to myself, I control what pain I receive. Because at the time, there was this sense of like, I felt so afraid of all the pain that the life might offer me that I wanted to shield myself from it. Now with hindsight, I see it was almost like an angelic presence, like guiding me through it. And when you know the blood would come out, it would be confirmation that I'm alive, that you know I have something to do here, and I matter because I am matter, you know. So and I actually started to use my blood for art. So I would write in it,
As your ink.
Yeah, I would collect it and I would write with it, and so that's when I realized like this has become actually really quite creative, you know. The emotion that was coming out through cutting, I found in tattoos. So when I started to get tattooed, and everybody told me is like once you try, you can't stop, and I just kept going back, and I got tattooed very quickly in the course of a few years. Because it became that therapy. But contrary to cutting, it already meant that, you know, I was working with somebody. So it was not just me.
Not just you. You started cutting initially for control. Now you're bringing someone else into the picture and giving some of that control up. And you were okay with that.
It means that you're not the one in control of the pain. So you're already allowing somebody else to give you that pain, and maybe it also allowed me to open up more of it to the world and to be open to situations and relationships and you know, to be open to the risk of life, you know. But in terms of like how it made me respect my body more, tattooing was that one of my first tattooists told me everything that I need to do to get ready for a tattoo and to make the process of healing optimal, and that means really taking care of your body. And up until that point, I didn't do that so consciously.
And so how did you go from the tattooing to then the artwork, the calligraphy that you were doing?
I came to a point in my life when I wanted to do something a bit more creative. So I went back to studies and I studied graphic design. And the first day that I studied graphic design, like we had to do an exercise and somebody commented on my handwriting. And it just opened up this whole thing in me of expressing myself through hand lettering and calligraphy. And for me, like, it was always this sense of like combining verbal expression and visual expression, and how you write something can impact the reading of it.
And you mentioned that when you had that realization years later writing the calligraphy, that it was the same level of peace. So what allowed for that peace to be present?
Yeah, I mean, it's that sense of serenity and the sense of calm, which I think a lot of people who cut themselves have also told me about this sense of being protected, you know, and the sense of like, for once, everything goes quiet. The way I saw it is that ultimately it's the same force that starts in you, is just which channel does it emerge through? So it can emerge through something that is really dark and really negative and really destructive, or it can emerge through something that is actually very beautiful and loving and creative. Which is why, like, I have faith in the fact that there's nothing essentially bad in us. It's just, it needs to be transmuted. You know, like the darkest things that we have in us are a result of trauma and wounds, and they fester and they become, you know, ugly, and then they manifest in ugly ways also. But essentially, if you learn to give them love and give them light and help them emerge through creative forces, then they will transform themselves.
What I was thinking when you said that, it was like a light bulb went off. The sun light comes through regardless, right?
Yeah.
And then depending on what it's coming through, the light represents differently.
Yeah.
Where that filter,
Yeah.
right? Where that filter. And it sounds like the more you healed, the more you were able to allow that force to come through in a, I don't even want to say positive, because I don't necessarily think that cutting was a negative.
It's interesting because I know objectively, like, I can see exactly how my healing happened.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily recall all the internal stages.
Yeah.
The one thing that I really believe now is that sense of detachment, like developing a sense of detachment from your emotions, and also coming from a place of non-judgment towards your emotions, to like not judge an emotion as negative. For me, I think that's what worked, is to attend to my emotions and be open to what they have to teach me.
How are you using, you know, this journey that you've been on, aside from the actual artwork? How are you using this to give a gift back to the world?
Yeah, so I'm doing that calligraphy, but at the same time now I'm really invested in building actually an online course around emotional healing, because that's something that it feels like that platform would benefit so many people, and it would also allow me to put all of my experience to good use. Because art is very beautiful, and I've had, you know, people who are touched by my art and who are touched by my writing, and it's gorgeous when that happens, when, you know, a stranger shares, you know, how much your work has impacted them. But for people who are really committed to change, who really want to, you know themselves better, you know, you need something more tangible. And so I'm that's what I'm developing at the moment, and you know, I want to write a book. So
wow. Yeah, what a gift.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing so openly. You know, if you attempt to hurt yourself by taking pills, there might not be a physical representation, but when you cut, you know, it's on your wrist or wherever it is that you're cutting, so people look at it and they ask, there's some shame there, but you take all of that away so beautifully and elegantly.
I've always tried to make sense of it. It's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I think when it comes to cutting, like, I speak about cutting and I speak about other things also, but like, we self-harm on so many ways, different levels, you know,
not
like
sleeping enough,
like addicted to your phone, or, you know, like overeating, or, you know, it's not as tangible as cutting, but it leaves the same marks. And it's about, like, how can you take one thing that you know is not useful to you, and you know it's harmful for you, you know, like even having like consistent negativity throughout the day, like that harms you physically. It's been proven scientifically. So I speak about my own extreme form of, you know, self-harm, because I do believe that it can really help people who even have a minor form of self-harm, but that they could still change it, and it could, you know, affect their life.
Yeah, you have to kind of take people to the extreme for them to be able to see the resemblance in their own behavior. Yeah, because it's leading to the same outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if our audience wants to get in touch with you and if this resonates, how can they find you? Yeah,
so presently I am mainly active on Instagram, but I'm building my platform, and that will be launching in November of 2019. And so Instagram, we'll put the handle on there, is the place to go. Lovely.
Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful time in LA. It's really a magical city.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for this. Thanks for watching.
All right, that's it for today, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.